I don't like when the car goes too fast.
Hey Sam Nation, it's been 2 weeks. It's usually just been 1 week, so yeah, welcome back to me, I guess. It's been a minute, I guess. So this week I want to talk about May It Never Falter, which is the new Glaive album. It comes in at a runtime of, I believe, 23 minutes, and I think it's pretty good. Sorry, there's faint bagpipes in the background. I don't really know why, so if you can hear those, I apologize. But I'm actually in the middle of nowhere, so I don't know why there's bagpipes. Okay, so into the review. I want to start by saying that I literally predicted this shit. I knew he was gonna fall back on. A month ago, I made a video. The glaive redemption is crazy because the Bit Mad one was this upward trend. I'm like, yeah, he's doing good. And before I just said, let's get into the review. But before I get into the review, I want to do a brief history of the last few years of glaive, because I feel like it's important to understand how we got here now. There's this era I like to call post Machine Gun Kelly glaive, where after he did a collab with Machine Gun Kelly, he took an intense shift in his sound, where he dove in this whole new direction with Minnesota as a place that exists and yada yada yada. And then he kind of just took on this new sound, and he didn't really develop it. He just kind of dove in and put out, I feel the first result he got from it. And that first result was I care so much that I don't care at all. And I feel the reason this album came out the way it did, I feel might have been partially due to label pressure. I don't really want to say it was just glaive making stupid artistic mistakes, and I feel there might have been label pressure there, because the album's exactly 35 minutes, and I think that's the benchmark album record labels look for if they sign a contract. You need your album to be 35 minutes, so I feel he might have dragged it out a bit to get to the legal amount he needed, the legal runtime he needed for his contract. But yeah, I feel it wasn't all him, and I don't want to play. He's a young artist. It was really just a fluke, and I feel a Bit of a Mad One really shows that I Care So Much was a fluke in his discography, and everything else surrounding that album has been really strong. I think it's just he had a rough start with his debut album, and then that album and then A Bit of a Mad One, they were both steps in this direction to get to his sophomore album, which is May I Never Falter. And then Third Time's a Charm, he gets this album that I think is well-rounded and quite lovely. It exclusively plays to Glaive's strengths. There's these catchy old digicore hooks with this new vulnerable writing that we saw on his debut album. So it takes the best of both sides of his music, and I can really appreciate that. You can kind of see that on 60,000 ISK, which is where he flexes 60,000 Icelandic krona, which is about 400 American dollars. And then along with that, he speaks about how he's the last of his family name and how that affect whatever. And he has these more heartfelt moments on the track while still being I just spent $400 and it's stupid. It kind of reminds me of early Blade, and even Blade now, with Sad Meal and stuff, and it's just it's silly and it's stupid, but it has this charm, this honest charm that I can really appreciate, and I do love Glaive's music for that. And you can kind of see this honest charm on the track I Know, IK, in the line, I just told this bitch I'm unemployed, why in the world would I do that? If you don't try to take it too seriously and you really just enjoy the music for what it is, I feel you can really get a lot out of it, a lot out of Glaive's music. And this isn't really a critical review, it's just kind of how I feel, and I'm not trying to be as critical as I possibly can. I just think if you go into it just taking it what it is and not trying to take it so seriously and from such a serious standpoint, I think you can just really enjoy yourself and just see it. This is a 19-year-old kid or whatever who's just having fun making his music and still having these heartfelt moments that can hit hard. There's a track Joel, which is a lovely track. It's a really beautiful track about his friend who passed, and I think it really That's some of his strongest writing to date, easily. Where he speaks about like his friend who died near the start of his like career, and how he kind of feels like he left him behind. And I think it's a really beautiful track, and it really I don't know, it says a lot, and it's I feel like it's one of the best times he's had like a heartfelt song that doesn't come across as corny or anything like that. And I think he really just delivers how he feels in a very honest and vulnerable way that I can really appreciate. And it's more mature, almost much more mature songwriting than something you'd see on I Care So Much That I Don't Care At All. My issue with this song, well, not with this song, but just with this, my issue comes in when they have live and direct come immediately after this track, which is just so jarring and really gives you this emotional whiplash, because 30 seconds ago you have Glaive being like, oh, I lost my best friend at like 14 or some shit or whatever, and now Curtains is like, I want you down on your leg sucking my shit. Like what? Like, what is that like track listing choice where you put that after? And I don't like, sometimes that emotional whiplash, like I can appreciate it and I think it works, but here it feels accidental, and it's just really strange. And I really like Live and Direct. I think it's an amazing track. I love that sample and the way when that first comes in and they bring in that like that vocal, that the vocal from the sample is beautiful, and the slow for 03 or whatever. That is awesome. That track is sick. My issue is where it's placed, and I just don't think it should be on this album. It's not supposed to be on this album. I feel like it should be a single, or Glaive and Curtains should do their own collab project or some shit, but it shouldn't be on this album. It makes no sense to be plopped in the middle of this album. It just feels like kind of an afterthought and kind of breaks up this album's cohesiveness, which I feel like it maintains quite well besides this track. Anyways, away from that, on top of the writing, this album also just has quite the glow up in production compared to older Glaive stuff. Like, it's even like, it's kind of what you heard on A Bit of a Mad One, but brought up another level, and just moving away from the folky stuff and more into the back in the digicore stuff, while still keeping hints of folk that I feel like do work, but just having a whole album of folk for Glaive doesn't really play to his strengths very well. But here he really does something that I feel like really works for him. And there's just tons of standout beats like I Know, and Live and Direct, obviously. Those are both really, really good beats. They really just get stuck on my head, and they're really infectious. And now for the wrap-up of this review. It's quite brief review. I didn't really have too much to say. It's only a 23-minute album after all. I feel like Glaive in the future could really flesh out a big project and give us something that's really cool. I think if he took his time and give it a year or two, he could really put out something amazing, because I think he's only been on an upward trend. You can consider I Care So Much I Don't Care At All, like that was really bad, but I feel like that was just a fluke, and in my mind that album never even happened, guys. That never even happened. But he's only getting better, and I think he's really figuring stuff out now, and you can really hear that on this album. And yeah, I'm just really rooting for this guy, if you haven't noticed, and I think he can really come around and get a lot of love with his next album, because this is already getting received so much better than I Care So Much That I Don't Care At All, and I think also better than A Bit of a Mad One. And I don't know, I really like to see him on the up and up, and I love to see these hyperpop artists who came from the hyperpop scene developing their sound in an interesting new direction, and I hope he ends up in a more respectable regard, like many other artists from that scene in that time, like Underscores and Jane Remover, who are very, very respected, I feel like. And Glaive doesn't really get that, and I think he can get his music to a point where he will get that recognition, and I really hope he does. Well, May It Never Falter, October 2024. I don't know what day it came out. Well, it's Saturday now. Came out yesterday. I don't know what day it is today. So May It Falter, October 2024. Curtains, I want you down on your leg, sucking on my shit. Semi-pasta, logging out. See you next Wednesday. Also, one last thing. Look how beautiful it is where I'm at right now. Look at this. Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. Yep. Yep.